Hey guys, Abraham here. One of the main requests that I've gotten over the years is if I can create a video to show you how to design a magazine. Now, I'm sure there are different ways, but I'm going to show you a method that I think is intelligent to creating a magazine. So, the first thing that we're going to do is we're not even going to care about anything that has to do with grid. Now, it might sound strange, but here's the thing. If you start creating a grid and forcing your content into your grid, then unless you're really, really good with setting up grid systems and editing them, then you might set yourself up in a situation that just makes it very difficult for yourself. So what I suggest is that you create some kind of dummy layout that feels good and you have the correct document size and all of that. And then you start looking at the different parts and basing your grid around that. Okay, so what I've done here is I've placed some body copy here and I've divided it over 4 columns. So why did I choose 4 columns? Well, when you're working with images and text and you want to have maybe you want an image to be to take up the space of half the text, and you can't do that with an odd number, so you can only do that with even numbers. So that's a good tip. And in this stage, I'm not even going to bother with the grid yet. What I've done is I've set up my body copy, and you're gonna have to play around with this until you find something that just feels good in terms of the font size, the column width, the leading, and you print it out and you look at it and you read it, and once you got that down, you move on to the other parts. But because the body copy is actually the main text, it's good to start with that, in my opinion. So in this process here, I've decided that I would like to add a combination for 3 columns as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. And the settings for this is just something that you have to pick that feels good with the spacing between the columns. In this case, it's 2.5 millimeters over 4 columns here. So I'm going to change it to 3 columns here. Because we have wider columns here, I'm going to see if multiplying this with 2 is going to feel okay, because we still have to consider that we are going to have a document grid in the end, and we need to base the spacings around that that grid. So let's pretend that this feels all right, and I print it out and everything, and I think that we could start sketching with on a layout here. So let's do that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna create a new document and start Grid Calculator. I'm just gonna select Create New Document here. Let's head over to the initial document here and check out the document size. (215 by 280 millimeters). And let's go back to this initial document again and open up body copy and look at the leading. It's 12 points here. So let's see if I can find a combination for 12 points. Well, I found something that was very, very close. Now let's say that I really want to have 12 points for my leading or baseline grid. I could uncheck this, and it will give me exactly 12 points. So the next step is to find, to actually look at the gutter value here, because this is going to guide us on what value we need to set for our document or the grid width. So if we can find something around 2.5 millimeters, that would be great. So let's see that. I'm going to use the grid width feature here. Press calculate. And I actually happen to find 2.5. So that's awesome. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to copy this text here and paste it in here. Now obviously I'm going to have to edit the text frame a bit here to make it fit. We have a perfect fit here. I just have to move it in place. So that's how easy it was to work from that sketch into a real document with a grid. So let's see if we can take our other text frame here. Actually, I can just copy this and set 3 here, 5 millimeters there. Now, this didn't fit, so what are we going to do about this? Well, we can either play with the width here. Okay, we got a fit here. And let's see if we can align this as well. Yeah, I was lucky and it actually fit. Now, otherwise you're going to have to do some other editing to make sure that everything fits. You might have to work with a smaller gutter here or maybe a larger gutter here. You're gonna have to play around until it fits. So let's go to margins here. So we set our inside margin and let's set our outside margin as well. I would actually like to have a little more spacing on the outside. So I'm gonna move all of this slightly to the inner margin. Reduce here, increase here. And let's see what we can find for type of combination here. So let's say that we would like to have 3 columns as our main column. And then I would like to have subcolumns. Actually, subcolumns is not the correct choice here. We are going to go to secondary here and we're going to look at secondary columns. We're going to look at 4 columns here. Now here we got a little problem. It doesn't really fit. So I just missed that. Let me show you. Here. So it doesn't fit here. So what can we do? Because in the end, it's all about making it look good and being readable and so on. And that's why we have custom setup here. So I can go to secondary here. I could enter 4. I could just enter 2.5 millimeters. And it would actually be gridded according to that. Even if we break the grid. Now, personally, I don't think it's the end of the world if it doesn't fit perfectly. Because in the end, it's all about making it look good and being readable and all of that. Now, let's place a headline. I'm going to click Add New Style, go to Headline, and click OK. I'm just going to enter a font for my headline and the style. And then I'm just going to play around a bit. Let's see. I'm going to play with the size here. And I actually wanted to go over on multiple rows here so that I can play with my lettering and see if I can find a combination that looks good. So let's say that we're happy with this, or if we're not happy with this, you can actually go to custom leading and enter your own leading. And it could be based around 12 points. So you can enter like 12. Let's see here what we can do. I can enter. Now we only support up to 5 levels in the drop down, but if you want like another step here, you could go here. You can enter 12 by 6, and it will still be aligned to the grid. Now, once again, personally, I think it's about making it look good, and the most important thing is that the body copy follows the baseline grid, because when it goes over multiple columns, if it doesn't snap or align with the baseline grid, it's not going to align over the multiple columns. Okay, now that we've done that, let's add a subcolumn. Once again, go to Add New Style, select Subhead, and I'm actually going to work with the same font here, but a different style. See, light. I'm just going to copy some text here. And I'm going to make sure that I apply it, because now the body copy is applied to it. And I'm going to play with the size here. And once I get a size that I think looks about right, I'm going to play with the leading here. So here's a tricky part. Sometimes it's not going to, you're not going to find a combination that works, that looks perfectly. And that's when you use the custom leading. So let's see that I would like to have like 22, and it simply feels better than run with it, because as I've said earlier, it's about making it look good instead of being forced and being a slave to the actual grid. So sometimes you can actually break the grid, and it's actually gonna be better for you. Now we're going to apply image lines. So that's quite simple, and let's go to body copy 1 here. And do you want to base it on the X height or the H height or something other? Maybe you're designing a magazine in Russia, in Russian, so it's a non-Latin based alphabet, so that's up to you. But I'm gonna select X height here, and as you know, when you place images, when working with image lines, make sure to always begin on the guides here. So let's see if I can find my layers. And you can turn off the image lines layers here or with this button. I'm going to hide the subcolumns again. And let's pretend that this is an image. I'm going to start on the guide here. And I'm going to end on the gray document grid, which is the baseline. Okay, so let's continue here, and I'm gonna do some modifications. I think that the leading is too large for this headline, so I'm going to go to headline here, and I'm going to edit it to maybe 5 levels. I think that looks better. Let's move this up here. And let's see here, go to subhead. Let's see if we can find a combination for 12 columns instead, as that is even more flexible. So let's see here. If I go to margin, columns, and rows, I'm gonna go to change the main column here. Now, as we can see, we do not have any combination for 12 columns. So what we can do instead, if we really want to work with 12 columns, we could create a new document. And we're going to be working with modular and smart mode instead. So I'm going to enter the value for the document size here. I'm then going to enter 2.5 millimeters. Press calculate. Now, just a side note here, you can press the up and down arrows on our latest version of the plugin. And you don't have to press calculate over and over. So once we've done that, go over to smart mode. So what we've done is we've defined the document size. We've set our grid width that we wanted to work with, 2.5, and press calculate. And then we go to smart mode here. Now what I do here is I enter 12 columns. I play around with the column width. Now here we run into a problem because the margins are either too big or too small. So how do I solve this? Well, I need to create a finer grid which will give me more options. So what I do is I divide this by 2, and this is going to give me more control. And let's enter 12 columns again, and 2 gutter steps so that it produces 2.5 millimeters. And let's see if we can find a better combination this time. Yeah, I feel that this is better, and we can see that it aligns perfectly. So I could go back to my document here, and I could enter a grid width of 1.25 and have the inside be 20 millimeters and the outside be 17.5 millimeters. So let's see if I remember all these details. I'm going to close this document. I'm going to start the grid plugin again here. And let's do the following here. I'm going to enter 1.25. This is going to clear the columns. And actually, let's go ahead and clear the sub-columns as well. Or the secondary columns. And let's go back to our margins. Actually, I want more on the outside, so let's put 17.5 millimeters here and 20 on the outside. Oops. Yeah. Now we should be able to have 12 columns here. Yeah, perfectly. So all I have to do here is I just have to readjust my content a little bit. So let's see here. The smaller gutter of 2.5 seems to be fitting perfectly here. Okay, so we have our text that spans over 3 columns with a gutter of 2.5, which I feel is a little too... It's too little for this column width. I would like to have another value, but I can't seem to find a combination that I like. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to copy this. I'm going to select both of these, and I'm going to copy. I'm going to close the plugin. I'm going to create a new document again, and I'm going to play around until I find a combination that I like. So back to modular setup here, and 215 by 280 millimeters, 1.25 millimeters for the grid width, and I'm going to find something that's close to 12 points, calculate. I got to change the subdivision here, of course. And this happened because the document height was too large. So when I entered 1.25, it had to divide it in order to fit within InDesign's restrictions. So anyway, let's head to smart mode. And I'm going to select edit, paste in place. Okay, so now we have it fitting perfectly. So let's see if we can find a combination here. 12 columns, 2 gutters. Actually, let's switch back to millimeters so we have the same values here. Okay. Now we have it exactly as I had it in the other document. Let's head back to modular and let's make an even finer grid here. Twelve columns again. So I'm probably not going to get the exact same values, but close enough will be good enough for me. So let's move it in place here. Let's see if I can edit the gutter of the column here. 3.125. Okay, now we have what appears to be a perfect fit. And if we can zoom in here, we can see that we have a really small grid. So now the tricky part, getting these columns to fit in nicely as well. But I want a larger gutter than with the 4 combinations because we have wider columns. So let's see here. And I can see that my increment value is 0.625 millimeters here. So I could go ahead and I could add that. Let's see here. Nope, didn't fit. Let's zoom in here and see. And to open this dialog, I'm just pressing Command B. Oh yeah, there we found finally a combination, and let's hope it fits on this side as well. Okay, so it fits perfectly. So we got a perfect fit there. And we have a perfect fit here. Now I just have to go back to my document and do some editing. I'm just gonna take a print screen of this actually. And then I'm gonna close this document. Don't save. Open the plugin again. Okay, so let's see here. Going to open these images. Okay, 0.625 for the grid width. 0.625. And let's see the margins. Something like that. Yeah, okay. The outside is yes. Okay, I'm guessing this is gonna be around 28 or something. Okay, that's perfect. Let's find our 12 columns here. Yeah, we can see the width is 3.125 millimeters. Perfect. Now we're just gonna move these things in place. Now, when it comes to the modular and smart mode, I think they are very, very powerful to use. Now, the reason that I'm not using it on this document is because I wanted to have my leading to 12 points. And I can't do that with modular and smart because I can't break the grid there. But in quick mode, I can do that. So I'm only going in there and I'm finding all the details and coming back and applying them in this mode. Okay, I think that was the combination that we had. 5 millimeters for the gutter. Let's see if it fits here. Yep, fits perfectly. So one last thing I want to do is actually create the columns for these 3 columns combinations. So I'm going to go into margin columns and rows here, and I'm going to go to secondary setup, secondary columns, and let's see here. Yeah, this seems to be that one. 3 columns with 8 gutter lines. And I'm just gonna try hiding this to just verify that it is correct here. Hide and show the secondary columns layer. Yeah, so there we have our setup for our magazine. And yeah, I can only imagine how many hours of hard work this would take if you didn't have the plugin. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you've learned something that you have use of, and thank you for watching.